better get started. So those of you that have just joined in, if you can, again, just comment in the chat who you are, where you're from, how many years you've been in practice, if there's anything you want to work on in 2026. And, again, it's a good time to interact and learn from each other. Because we can learn and connect and help each other as well. And Venus, if you want to just kind of watch to make sure people are added throughout, and then if you have to end up leaving, if you want to just let Kylie know and she can join as well. Or it looks like maybe Kylie is here instead. So awesome. Yep. Okay, you guys keep it going on the back end. And Steve, you ready? We'll get started.
Yeah, ready.
Okay. Okay, so welcome. We do these webinars throughout the year, but over the last few years, we've been doing a year-end session in order to help therapists really get off to the best start in the new year. We are super excited about the new year coming and for some of the changes that are, even though, yes, insurance Medicare may not have a major increase. There still are some other new things that people can implement to their practices that can help increase revenue. Plus, each and every year, we continue to learn more and more on how to help practices streamline, improve efficiency, which helps them keep more money in their practice as well. So we're excited to be here. We've actually just spent the last week and a half meeting with therapists finalizing their 2025. So we'll be able to share some stories from that will hopefully help some of you guys as well as you plan for 2026. So my name is Kara Welke. I believe as I read through the participant list, I know most of you, but just in case there's a few of you I do not know or you do not know me, I'm an occupational therapist guess I'm going to have to say 26 years now. I started my private practice in 2018. We started as a mobile outpatient practice here in Grand Forks, North Dakota. We do have a clinic setting. We have contracts with multiple different groups, agencies as well. We do kind of a wide variety of things currently as we've grown over the years. And then I started Next Level occupational therapy in 2019. And since then, we've been helping PTOT and SLP practices start and grow their businesses, as well as helping current practice owners grow, scale, and systematize their own practice. So a little bit about me. Steve is here with me as well. Steve, do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. Thanks, Kara. My name is Steve Gluck. I am an occupational therapist. I have been in practice since 2013, and over my time of practicing in different populations, I went through home care, pediatrics, outpatient, skilled nursing, assisted living, all of that. And I realized there was a need for better documentation and practice management tools. So we launched HelloNote, and I'm the CEO of HelloNote currently. And I've been fortunate enough to meet Kara, and we collaborated together. How many years ago was that, Kara? Already?
Oh, it was
At least
in
8?
2018 when I started my practice. So
2018. There we go. So yeah, very fortunate to have cross paths with Kara. And our mission is to help practitioners open up their own practice, whether you're a PTOT, speech therapist, or even an assistant, PTAs, POTAs, a speech assistant. So we will help you get to where you need to be in your starting your practice. And if you already have a practice, our mission is going to be to help you flourish your practice and help you on your journey.
awesome. And I turned off my video because of course we are in a windstorm here today. So even though I'm plugged in and should have good internet, it is a little shaky here today. So let's go ahead and get started. How to increase revenue in your private practice in 2026. So the objectives that we're going to be talking about with anyone that has a private practice, I often like to start out with differentiating between self-employment and business ownership. So we're going to talk a little bit about that before we get started. Then we're going to talk about why increasing revenue in 2026 is going to require a different strategy, and look at some of the different considerations that we need to keep in mind as we are starting to enter into 2026. And then we're going to go through different, we have actually a roadmap that I'm excited to share with you guys today. We'll talk about foundational business elements, as well as we'll talk about how to apply strategies to optimize and diversify payment streams. So to get started, and again, if you've been in any of my webinars, you know I make you guys comment, and we'll sit here and all stare at each other or stare at our screens until someone does comment in the chat. So first question for you guys, how would you describe yourself? Are you self-employed or are you a business owner? So everyone comment in the chat what you are.
So lots of business owners
Yeah, lots of
and
business
some
owners, and I
self-employed.
know some
Yep.
of these people have been around us enough to know, and why they also are putting themselves as self-employed. So that's good as well. So okay, so let's see if we're going to talk about the differences, and then honestly, if your answer is different when we're done with this, that is 100% fine. I can guarantee you a few years ago, I would have said business owner when I was still self-employed. So let's go ahead. First question I have for you. If you stopped working in your business today, how long would it keep running smoothly? I should say first question. Second question I have for you guys. If you stopped working in your business today, how long would it keep running smoothly? Could you go away for a day, a week, a month, a year? Once you can make that leap from self-employed to a business owner, it's pretty darn awesome. I am actually looking forward to a family vacation in a couple weeks, and I've already told everyone in both businesses that, well, I'm going to try. I will not be looking at any messages. So, okay. Hey, so we have
I
someone
tell
with one.
myself that all the time, Kara, but that never
Steve,
happens.
you never listen. I even try to get you to stop working and you don't.
Lots to do,
Um,
lots of problems to solve. So one
Steve,
day.
as we go through this presentation, I would like you to also think about the roadmap.
Yeah, I will.
Okay. 0 seconds. Okay, the longest one we have is 1 to 2 months. Okay, so every year we have a training with the therapist we personally work with, and actually Thursday we're going to be in
Carrie,
2026. We do our
you might have to repeat that. It cut out quite a bit.
sorry. Um, as we a couple things we do, and I want you guys to start thinking about your goals for 2026. So this Thursday we'll be reviewing 2025 and putting in place what we need to have ready for 2026. And then the first week in 2026, we always work on a growth plan. So for some of you guys that aren't able to be away from your business and you have been doing this for multiple months and you want to be a true business owner, I want you to set a goal of how long you can get away, or what time period can you actually go away and your business keep running. So let's look at this a little bit more in depth. So I'm guessing most all of you know Robert Kiyosaki. So this quadrant is based off of the cash flow quadrant, made it specifically for therapists. So none of you Well, maybe some of you are still actually working for someone else and you're started your business on the side. So up in the left-hand corner with therapists working for someone else, that's, an employee, a W-2 worker, and so forth. Then below that is the self-employed. So that's what I asked you guys, if you were self-employed or if you've reached over to the right-hand side, if you're an actual business owner. So when you're self-employed, that's when you're still working for yourself. Sometimes you're a solo provider, and we have therapists that we work with that they want to be self-employed. They don't want to have staff. They don't want to grow and scale. They literally want to be their own boss and they love the independence. So that's 100% fine. We all have different goals and dreams for what we want. So that's an example of self-employed. Now, to be a business owner, we got to jump on over to the right-hand side. And that's where now you have a team, you have therapists, you have an admin, you have scalable services. This is when you can leave and go and enjoy a vacation or go away for a couple months and your business isn't going to burn down. In order to do this, you often have to have a good team, the right people on the bus, scalable systems, and a lot of different pieces in place. And basically you have to have other people that can do the work, right? And then down at the bottom right corner, and this is where we have started to make the leap with some of the business owners, is to then get to the point where you can also be an investor. We've learned a lot over the years on tax strategy and how if you are on the left side of the quadrant, how you set up your business, your tax strategy, and everything is so much different than those on the right side. And if you want to get over to that bottom right corner, you're really going to need to, work with someone that is a tax strategist to educate and teach you how to do that. Now, this does take mind shift. You go from the self-employed mindset where you trade time for money, you're doing everything yourself, the business depends on you, growth can feel exhausting, to the business owner mind shift. Now you know the value of your time. You know how to delegate. You are building systems, and so you can get your business to run without you. One of our number one books in 2025 that we've encouraged, forced therapists to read is Buy Back Your Time. If you've read Buy Back Your Time, put yes. If you haven't, put no, just to see where everyone's at. All business owners should read this book. And I'd recommend reading it sooner than later because it might save you a lot of valuable time, money, and stress down the long run. If you have read it, definitely share your thoughts on it in there. So, last thing we'll talk about with self-employed to being a business owner. So you have a business when it generates income without your constant presence. You have systems and people in place. Your revenue is not and you can scale or sell it. So now I'm going to re-ask that question. And again, there is no, 100%. I thought I was a business owner and I was self-employed for many years until I had awesome people help me get to where I am today. So let's ask the question again. Are you self-employed or are you a business owner? So next year at this time, when we do this presentation, those of you that actually want to be a business owner, I'm really excited and hope that you can come here and answer business owner, but also some of you may want to stay self-employed, and that's 100% fine. We all have different goals and desires. I always tell everyone, for instance, my husband doesn't even want to be self-employed. He's had the opportunity to be self-employed. He's had the opportunity to start and run his own business. And he told me he'd rather eat off his left arm than do that. So we all have different goals with that. Steve, anything to add before we get into what we need to do in 2026 on self-employed versus business owner?
Yeah, there's a lot. You really need to understand the difference. That is the goal of what you mentioned. So, as you said, there's a lot of self-employed individuals out there who think they're business owners. So, understand the difference, and also every state also has their own compliance and different definitions as well. So, I'm in New York, so there's a lot more to know. And I believe California as well, Kara, right? There's
Yeah,
it's a lot more
California and New
trickier.
York are troublesome states.
Yeah, it's always like that here. So there's a lot of extra things to know. But there's nothing wrong to be self-employed. You don't have to be a business owner. It's whatever works for you, and you can always change the path forward down the line.
And today we're going to talk about things you can do and implement this year that will help you transition from being self-employed to a business owner if that's your goal. And if you are a current business owner, you will also learn different strategies that you can use to, scale, keep more money in your practice, and maybe accomplish other goals as far as if you want to add additional services or new clinics, or maybe you want to get your business ready to sell. We work with therapists that that's their goal as well. So why 2026 requires a different strategy? So what worked even 2 or 3 years ago is no longer enough. The environment therapy practices are operating in has changed, right? And 2026 is going to continue to amplify those changes. I don't know if you guys have seen the email that I sent out recently and some Facebook posts. There's a lot of different program systems that are coming out. Things are going to look different. Actually, just got a message from AOTA today, meeting about the access model that was out, and then another new model that was just released. So we're going to be seeing more and more of these models, and we have to keep up to date on these models, how we can fit into these models, if we even want to fit into these models, and what are our other options. Staffing shortages is a major problem. Do any of you guys have trouble finding staff? If you want to put yes or no in the link. With all of the therapists that we work with in almost every state in the US, our therapists are struggling with trying to find staff. It is difficult to find staff, and then it's difficult to find good staff. And then on top of that, it's difficult to be able to afford good staff, right? And there's a lot of different decisions that have to come into place in order to get staff. So hiring can be harder, slower, and even more expensive. I mean, it's taken a couple of our businesses we work with over a year to find the staff that they need. And then we pivot, right? We make changes, we use telehealth, and then all of a sudden, boom, telehealth we can't use. So then we have to shift and pivot again. So we always got to be on top of the game in order to improve and all of these different strategies. We're seeing more audits recently. I don't know, have any of you guys got some of these audits? We're seeing not just audits, but denials. We're seeing denials for therapists that are billing, therapeutic activity 4 units in a session, getting denied. We're having, a couple weeks ago, we had 2 therapists reach out to us, because they had identified fraud within their business or within a business they contract with. There's increased regulatory scrutiny and there's increased compliance risks going on. We're finding that therapy practices, don't have a compliance plan. They don't have a policy procedure manual. They're not using HIPAA compliant communication. We just had a therapist reach out last night that accidentally sent an email out to a bunch of the wrong people. Things happen and then people don't know what to do. So how can we set up a business that's going to mitigate any of these issues from happening? And then how to be able to, really improve and get where you need to be sooner and quicker, while also maintaining your standards. So basically being clinically excellent and being the best therapist around, is not enough. Your business model has to really support it as well. My big thing lately that I've been saying to a lot of our therapists is we need to work smarter, not harder. One thing we started really stressing with our therapist in the last quarter was tax strategy, like I mentioned before. We found that knowing and understanding tax strategy has saved a lot of the businesses thousands of dollars, and the bigger companies in the hundreds of thousands of dollars. So different things that a lot of us, at least myself, didn't learn, and we're finding a lot of other therapists don't know and understand. So we're going to talk about the roadmap for 2026. So revenue growth in 2026 will not come from more visits at lower rates. It will come from smarter models, diversified revenue, and operational efficiency. As we look at the roadmap, our goal is to help inspire you guys from creating a stable, strong foundation that you can then achieve sustainable growth. So first, you really have to stabilize the business. Then you build the leverage so growth doesn't rely on you doing everything. And then next, you can optimize what's already happening. When we work with practices, we consistently see that skipping these steps is what leads to burnout and instability. And again, I'm the first to admit, I did this when I was for the first several years in our practice. It wasn't until I learned the importance of building a proper foundation, having the appropriate systems in place and what automations can do that can really help. After you have those pieces in place, then you can figure out if you diversify your revenue and what type of things you can do to diversify your revenue. But the diversification, when we get to that final step, when we talk about that today, because we'll share a few things that you might want to add to your practice or you might want to do, but it really needs to align with your practice. One thing that has been kind of a hot ticket item over the last year for a lot of practices, and one thing you will see, or you probably have seen that we've been pushing, is functional capacity evaluations. Again, functional capacity evaluations can bring in a lot of money, but you also have this proper foundation in place. You have to have the systems and staffing to do it, and you have to have optimized operations to make it successful. So it might not be the best thing for your practice. So it's really important that when we get to that part about talking about diversifying, is that it aligns with your practice, your goals, and your capacity and what you can do. Okay, so we'll go ahead and get started. So the first thing is foundation first. Hopefully, all of you that are here, you have a solid foundation already. You have a clear business structure. The roles of everyone in your business are detailed. You have a risk management plan in place. You have your policies and procedures. You know and understand the financial aspect. You know what your revenue is, your net profit, how much you can pay yourself, how much you have set aside for taxes, things like that, and that you have defined workflows and accountability. But if you don't have this, you can go back and fix it. And even if you do have this, you're going to have to always keep up with it as you grow. We just spent the day with my management team for Home Therapy Solutions, working on our SOP, working on, everything to go back and fix any leaks that have been happening and try to improve things so that we can grow and scale. We find that a lot of practices struggle not because they lack ideas. And I think I never did ask, who's OT, PT, or SLP? Share that in the comment what you guys are. But since I'm an OT, I feel like I could say this, is that I see a lot of OTs have lots of ideas. We want to do tons of different things. And sometimes that can lead us with shiny object syndrome, that we're trying to do too much, right? So we do see practices struggle because they have too many ideas, but they have an unstable ground in what to grow it on. So if the foundation isn't solid, growth doesn't feel like progress. It feels more like chaos. Anyone feel like their business is just full of chaos? Feel free to share or type chaos if that's how you feel. So basically, it's really important to have a clear business structure so that you know who is responsible for what, where decisions are made, what tasks belong to the owner versus the staff, because when roles are unclear, tasks fall through the cracks. And we really find that owners become the bottlenecks of the practice. And have any of you guys said this? There's no one else that can treat the clients like I do. Yes or no? I know I said that when I first started. How could I have someone else see my client? Because my clients only want me. They don't want anyone else. Okay? I mean, I hear it all the time still. I said it. But again, if that is your mindset, you're creating a bottleneck already in your practice. Another of my favorite ones, and let me know if you guys have thought this or said this as well, the phones. Do you know how many therapists refuse to give up answering the phones? We'll even get virtual assistants or admins into a practice, and the business owner refuses to let them answer the phones because they have to be the ones to answer the phones. Anyone else have problems answering the phones? I was really happy not to answer the phones. In fact, you'll find that I never answer the phone. Did anyone notice with the new iPhone update, and I'm probably late on this whole ball game, but now it will even, I never answer the phone, but now it will say something like, it will tell me who's calling and why they're calling. So then I can really decide if I have to answer the phone. But again, these are things we see. And if everything runs through you, the owner, that's not leadership. It's creating a fragile system. The other thing is compliance and risk management. So again, compliance is not just documentation. It includes billing, clarity on your scope of practice. We see a lot of people maybe verging away from what they can do. Supervision guidelines, not having consistent processes in place. Like I said before, we've seen some fraudulent things go on, and not of the business owner's fault, but if the business owner didn't have a good compliance plan in place, good policies in place, that could have really hurt them even more. Some other different red flags we're seeing, repeated use of the same CPT codes, copy and paste documentations, services billed but not provided. And again, they're not always bad clinicians. They're usually a result of system failures or not knowing to do what's going on. We see a lot of things going on with what's being billed and how things are being managed, but that's because the therapists weren't trained. They don't know and understand what's going on. We talked about the financial visibility. Again, that's huge. Do you guys know what your net profit margin is? If you don't, make that a goal for this year. Do you know how much money you should pay yourself? Do you know how much money you should set aside for taxes? Do you know how much money you should set aside for operations? If you don't, that's another huge goal. We actually have a financial tool that we could send out if you're interested, that you can go through and kind of rate yourself on where you fall with everything. Because if you don't understand your numbers, you don't actually know how your business is performing or where your risk lives. So that's huge. And then the last part is that define workflows and accountability. Um, and, systems protect good clinicians from bad outcomes. When you have good workflows, you can catch errors sooner rather than later. And that's another thing we did today is just went through all of our workflows and how things are going to make sure everyone is on the same page with that. Steve, anything else you want to add to about why foundation is so important and how you have to go back to build a strong foundation?
I can have a whole topic webinar
I
on
know
this, hours
this could be a
long.
2-hour presentation
Yeah.
just on
So,
foundations.
and again, I learned from my mistakes and also our mistakes as a company as well. That's why feedback is so important to get from your clients, because when you build your foundation, and if it's yourself, you're building it the way from your vantage point, and you don't realize how much it's going to affect you as a business owner or practice owner in the future. Because it's so much harder to change your foundation once it's already in place and once you already started to maintain control over certain things, right? Like answering phones, answering emails, just the way you run your business on day to day. And one of the things I can say is that when you set up your foundation, think about scaling. Because in the beginning, you don't think about scaling. You just have your goals in place and you just want to be successful. And that's what I hear from a lot of practice owners. Their first goal is to be successful. And then when you dive into what does that mean, all it really means for them is to see 5 patients a day, 10 patients a day, fill up their week, and so on. But as the business grows, it needs to scale. And if you want to scale, you need to set up that foundation first, which includes a lot of what you just said, Kara, a lot of processes that you need to account for before it's too late. Because once it's too late, that can actually drive your business down, leading to closure. And I do have a handful of clients that I work with that happen to. And you never want to have that happen to the business because of the wrong foundation.
Yes, so just to summarize, fix your foundation first. If you're feeling like you don't have a good business structure and your roles detailed out, if you don't have a compliance plan in place or risk management plan in place, get those in place. Do you have a policy and procedure manual in place? If you don't, put it together. Don't rely on ChatGPT because it still lies, right? This is stuff you don't want to, you want to make sure it's solid, legit, legal. Finances is huge. You really need to know and understand your finances as far as your income, your expenses, your profit margins, what you can set aside. You need to look at, your tax strategy. There's a lot of different things going in. One thing I want to add is, we've had therapists that have got to the point where they didn't understand this and it came to tax time and they never set aside anything they made, and they owed all of this money in taxes but didn't have any money to pay it. So it's critical because it doesn't just affect your business, it's going to affect you personally, and if you have a family, your whole family. Develop some workflows and create accountability for you and your staff. So very important. And once your foundation is strong, it doesn't mean you ignore it. Foundations require ongoing attention as you grow. Your systems, roles, and workflows have to be revisited, reinforced, and adjusted. Sustainable growth doesn't come from building once, it comes from continually revisiting that foundation and strengthening it. You go back and review your compliance plan, your policies and procedures, your standard operating procedures, and make sure you have those in place. On a scale of 0 to 10, being 0, your foundation is really about ready to crumble, and 10, you feel you have a solid foundation, where would you rate yourself on a scale of 0 to 10? Go ahead and share that in a chat. And then once you have that number, if you have a piece of paper or if you're at a computer and can write this, I want you to create a goal for 2026. Like, my foundation is currently at a level 7 out of 10. My goal for 2026 is to get it to be a 10 out of 10, an 8 out of 10. Make a goal and then list the items that you're missing, and figure out how you're going to improve it. Whether that's reading, learning, getting in a program, working with your small business group. Find a way to work with someone that's going to help you, because once you get that solid foundation, then you're going to build upon it in the next levels as we go through. Okay, awesome. So thanks for sharing. And again, I wouldn't rate my foundation as a 10, because we're growing, we're adding staff, and and that's why we all had to meet again to revise our standard operating procedure, to adjust some of our workflows and so forth. You're continually improving. So once the foundation is solid, now it becomes, how do we grow without adding more hours to your week, right? We want to grow, but there's only one of you at the moment, or maybe you do have more people, but you still don't want to add more to your week. So this is where getting good systems in place, getting the appropriate staff, you'll hear me say always get the right people on your bus, is important. And then also using leverage. So administrative, work is essential, but it doesn't require a clinical license. And this is where I want you guys, if you haven't, to read Buy Back Your Time. This is where you're going to learn about the importance of your time, and where your time should be best used. And this again is a big area where we see a huge bottleneck, where business owners, instead of doing only the things that they can do, they're doing all of, they're chasing down, finding the plan of cares, they're answering the phone calls, they're dealing with scheduling issues, they're dealing with billing issues. They're doing all of this while also trying to see 20, 25, 30 clients a week. And it's a quick road to burnout. And the staffing is going to depend on each and every practice and where you're at. A lot of times we see therapists, once they get up to 10, 15 visits a week, now they're bringing in admin, whether it's a virtual assistant or it's an in-house. Once they get a few more staff, now they're looking at bringing in another, whether it's an OT, PT, OTA, PTA. But again, it's all going to come back to your KPIs, your key performance indicators, and using those numbers to help you figure out when is the best time to hire, whether it's an admin or, a clinical or a therapist staff. Now, my husband taught me this many years ago, that sometimes, for instance, with cleaning, I hate cleaning. I don't want to clean. It takes a lot of time. I could go out and treat a couple clients and pay for someone to clean my house, and we are all more happier than that. So with some of these tasks, you can go out and see a couple more clients, and you can have an admin or time in your. So to bring on admin, knowing when to, whether you need virtual assistants or in-house is very important. Knowing when to add on other clinical team is important. The other thing is standard operating procedures. How many of you guys have standard operating procedures in place? Yes or no? So if something were to happen to you tomorrow, would someone know what to do? A standard operating procedure is essential to have in your practice, because if something happens to you, or what if your admin all of a sudden quits tomorrow? What are you going to do? Do you know how to train someone else? Could someone else train someone? Having standard operating procedures are essential. And yeah, like Nicole said, yes, but need to be revised, out of date. They do, that's why we spent a full day on it. And I spent a full day on it with myself, with my therapy manager, with my physical therapy manager, with our systems coach. We all spent all day on it. And yes, I paid them to do it. That's what we worked on because it's so important to have good standard operating procedures in place. Then it comes into your EMR and CRM utilization. So many people aren't utilizing their EMR to their full capability, and Steve will talk about this in a second. A lot of people have no idea what a CRM is. Do any of you guys use a CRM? If you want to just put yes or no in the chat. Customer relationship management program. Like, I would literally be lost without our CRM. It pretty much automates most of our tasks throughout the day. I mean, it's a complete game changer for people. Now, the thing is just going and purchasing our CRM is not going to necessarily be a lifesaver. Like Katrina mentioned, if it's not built and configured for therapy practices, but if it is, it's going to make a huge difference. And then looking at, your mindset as well is huge, CEO versus clinician mindset. And then the other thing I wanted to mention is financial and tax structure that supports working smarter, not harder. We're finding that a lot of therapists maybe didn't set up their practice appropriately, and they could have set up a different structure or added a structure that actually helps them save on taxes and helps them keep more money in the business. So lots of different things to look at. And with the tax strategy, it's not about avoiding taxes or maximizing deductions. I mean, the worst thing is, oh, I got to spend all of this money in December so I can maximize deductions. I personally want to save as much money as I can and decrease my overall tax strategy and keep more money in my business and for me to use instead of spending it on things we don't actually need. Tax strategy is really about aligning structure with growth and getting things set up for the long term. Steve, you want to talk about, especially I'd like you to talk about EMR and how people, aren't utilizing it efficiently to increase and improve their systems and save time, but you can address any of these areas.
Yep. Also lots to talk about here. So an EMR, right, is your tool. It's essentially your right hand, right? And if it's not your right hand, you're not using it properly, right? So an EMR is not just meant to be just documentation or just billing, or just practice management. It's supposed to be all of the above. So with an EMR, that's what makes, my job fun and our team's jobs fun is we get to listen to feedback and create a product that allows clients to grow and allows them to free up and maximize their efficiency. And sometimes when we talk to clients and they're not utilizing what we've built in all of its capacity, we got to question why, right? So it's not that we don't have a lot of stuff. It's just that a lot of business owners just do not want to adapt, or they don't want to give up control. So I'll give you an example from this month. I was talking to a client and she said that she does not utilize appointment reminders because she prefers to call the patients herself. So every day she runs the report and she calls the patients every single day. And when I asked her why she's doing that, and I told her, did you not know we have appointment reminders in the system? She says, of course I know you have reminders, but I prefer to call the patients. And she's not a small practice, and she's not huge, but she has a quota with her. So there's at least 20 patients per day to call. So if you think about it, how much time does it take her to call 20 patients, right? And don't forget, some of them won't pick up. So what do you do when they don't pick up? Do you leave them a message? Do you call them back and so on? And then when we dissected the time it takes, she actually could see two more patients a day, or her quota can see two extra patients a day, every single day for the time that she's taking to call the patients. So, and that's just one example. There's much more examples when it comes to billing and practice management, wait list management, all of that. So, and now a big discussion is like a scribe with documentation. So scribes now are huge as well. So if you don't want to document or spend a ton of time documenting, of course, HelloNote has templates. But we also have integrations with scribes, right? Including our own scribe coming. So that's going to be a push in a direction where now you could save your time and you get to decide what you want to do with that time. If you want to spend more time on yourself or your family or grow your business, see more patients, that's something as a business owner you should decide. If you can't do that, then I think that's a step in the wrong direction because you're never going to grow out of that. Going back to the practice owner that calls her patients, once we dissected the time, she realized that she could be making. So let's say I'm just going to run some ballpark numbers based on quota reimbursement. Times 2 times 5. So that's $700 a week that she could be making more if she, instead of calling her patients to remind them about the appointments, she could spend the time getting more patients and getting $700 a week just without doing anything else, just with using appointment reminders, which again goes back to a system, right? So 700 times 4.25, for example, that's $3,000 a month, right? And then when we looked at the numbers, that's close to what she's paying for quota, right? So it just seems like it's a no-brainer to have systems work for you, right? Especially with HelloNote and the CRMs out there, the cost of using them is such a small percentage to your monthly revenue that it shouldn't even be a matter of making a decision. It should be a matter of learning of how do I get started on this. So too many times I hear practitioners not utilizing certain components to save time. And then going back to CRM. So Kara in your group uses the Go High Level CRM. So HelloNote is coming out with the integration for it. It's been a long time coming, but we're almost there. And we're gonna do a ribbon cutting ceremony with Kara
Yeah,
once
we
we
are.
have it.
We're gonna have
I know.
we're gonna have fireworks and everything.
Everything. Yeah, we're gonna have a whole launch party for it. So yes, it is coming. And the two together, like HelloNote with Go High Level, that will give you everything you need to run a practice where you could actually step back and take a breath if you need to, and decide what you want to do with that time. But again, that goes back to mindset. You can't be stuck in your ways because again, we have our own ways. Even myself, like I have certain things I'm doing that I can delegate or I can use a tool and so on. But especially if you are small right now and you have 1 to 2 practitioners with you, now's the time to start thinking about how to utilize EMRs and CRMs properly because they will do so much work for you behind the scenes. And your goal is just going to be to grab those leads and uh, get more business, right? Schedule more visits, more revenue, and so on. So yes, there's a lot of components that are underutilized. With that being said, we are always learning as well. So there's so much feedback that we get that we're like, wow, this is a great feature. And we build those out. So over the years, if you've been with HelloNote, even for 3, 4 months, you know how many features we roll out. And one of our features that we're rolling out is actually to inform you guys of updates because we want to do more by telling you what updates actually came into fruition. And that's, we've sent out newsletters, we did alerts on the dashboard, but it doesn't seem enough because we're still constantly getting clients reaching out and asking us for features that already exist. So we're actually going to be launching something that is going to be on top of the banner. and it's going to allow you to see all the updates, and you can check it as read until the next time we have an update. So there's a lot that we've already released, and that's based on feedback. And integrations with other systems is huge because it actually can make or break your business. And even you. I mean, again, I've had clients that have closed their doors and they were successful. It's not like they had no patience. They just didn't utilize systems properly to get out of the mindset of doing everything.
So as you think about this level, with your systems, staffing, and leverage, I want you guys to think about, again, where you're at. How would you rate yourself on a scale of 0 to 10? Do you have the appropriate systems in place? Do you have the right staffing in place so you can delegate what you need to delegate so you're not the bottleneck in your practice? Are you using leverage so that you can grow and continue to grow without burning yourself out? So on a scale of 0 to 10, where would you rate yourself? And why you guys are all rating yourself. When it comes to CRMs, a lot of them are kind of blank slates. So you really want to be looking for, a system, as well as someone that knows and understands it to help you make sure it's right for you, right? So we've been working with our systems coach, Anthony, for I don't even know how many years now, Kylie. It's been several years. And we feel like we've created an amazing system for therapy practice owners. And sometimes I forget how important it really is because I'm not in that home therapy solutions business anymore. But recently I got pulled back into home therapy solutions to help train a staff because I don't know, patients are coming out of the woodwork right now. So all of our staff are crazy busy, including our managers. And I'm like, holy cow, I don't think I could survive without it because everything is so automated and we're able to do so many cool things that I never knew existed before. So it can really help you save time, money. And with the staff shortages, we have to work smarter. And by putting these systems in place, we're able to save everyone's time and effort there. Okay, same thing that I asked you guys to do before. Take where you're at and then make a goal for where you want to be at the end of 2026 with improving your system staffing so that you can help leverage and grow your business even more. And we already kind of said all this. You cannot grow revenue if you're still doing everything yourself. Without systems and leverage, the owner becomes the ceiling. Oh, this was one more thing I forgot to say. We have had numerous therapists tell us they're a one-person show, they don't need systems. When you're a one-person show, you need systems just as much as anyone else because you can't do it all without burning yourself out. And you probably won't have the best quality of life. So having good systems in place can allow you to do so much more and get to where you want to be in your practice. Okay. Next level in our roadmap is now optimizing what you already do. So this is a because you really improve and bring a lot of revenue back to your practice just by improving systems and your current practices. For example, one example we have is just like using improving a system for decreasing cancellations. We've helped therapy practices, and this is one example coming up, decrease their cancellation rate from 28% down to below 10%. And think how much more revenue that brings into your practice. Correct CPT utilization. Just worked with a newer therapy business last week, And we were looking at the coding, and when we read the notes with what they coded, they were definitely undercoding. They should have been utilizing other CPTs that better fit what they were doing, which actually brought in more visits. They're also noticing that, there's visits that people were there longer, but they weren't charging enough units. A variety of different issues were going on. So just even looking at CPT utilization is huge. A lot of therapists, aren't using some of the newer CPT codes, like the newer caregiving codes. There are some codes that have been around forever that people aren't using, like the physical performance test or the cognitive test. There's a lot of different codes that you could be using that could bring in more revenue to your practice. So really taking a deep dive and looking at what your staff are billing. One of my favorite reports, and I think I'm the only person that likes this report or uses this report. I think, Steve, you even questioned why I always use this report, but it's a Hello No report. It's a compliance report, and I always use it because I like to look at what my therapist, how long they were in the session, how many units, what they billed, what tests they were giving, and what their goals are, because then I have a good idea of what they're doing in their sessions, and we're able to catch a lot of different things just looking at that report. Schedule optimization. We see, especially with those mobile therapists, I don't know if anyone in here is mobile, but just optimizing schedules can make a huge difference. Learning to say no might be the best thing you've ever done for your practice. Instead of going, 45 minutes away to see a client, if you really stayed within 15 minutes or 30 minutes, could you dramatically increase the amount of visits you're being able to do. Billing accuracy and denial reduction is huge. We have worked with a lot of practice owners that aren't paying attention to their billing. They're not following up on denials. They're not billing co-pays, co-insurances, which actually not to do. Just a lot of things go on that we can actually optimize and just improve your revenue and decrease your risk without adding any new service. Steve, what areas do you see that people are able to really optimize in order to increase revenue without adding new services?
I would go back to systems, use your systems, because there's a lot of time that you can use as leverage. But as far as going back to reports, so even a compliance report, for example, so it goes back to running reports, because reports will tell the story of your clinic. So Kara, if you run the reports, for example, you mentioned you run the compliance report. Is that based on also how many CPT codes they're billing?
Yeah. So the reason why I like running that report is because, and really, once our staff get really trained, I don't need to look at it, but especially new ones, because I like how it shows you their time they clocked in, time they clocked out, how many units, and then I looking at how many units they actually build, so I can see where they're at with that.
Yes. Yeah, and that's important, because again, every report tells a story. So, but the one I would use, if I would have to pick one outside of just time management, is billing reports. And the reason is because there's so many times where we work with a client, where I do a screen share with the client, and we look at their reports, and they're essentially billing insurances that are not paying them anything. So they're just picking up patients and treating patients just to staff that visit, and not realizing that they're getting reimbursed $30, sometimes $50, but very, very low reimbursable rates. So, and that's important, because when you run reports and you realize how many of those there are, it could actually be the reason why you're in the negative in every single month. So that is important to me, to run billing reports. So with that being said, we are actually launching a new billing dashboard to help show you that. So it's good timing on that because the billing dashboard will show you your top insurances paid, your worst insurances paid, your top CPT codes paid. So because we want you to use that data and understand, like, maybe I shouldn't be taking this insurance. And to this day, I'm sure, Carrie, you get asked the same question too. I still get asked, should I get credentialed with every single insurance? Right? And the answer is no. You're supposed to do the
Oh.
research. No, exactly. And I still get asked that all the time. And why? Because therapists and business owners get excited when we get a referral, right? But if it's a referral with a plan that doesn't pay you much or anything at all, they'll still take it just to staff that case because of the excitement. But when you run a business, you can't base the business on excitement. You have to base the business on revenue and having funds available to pay your bills, your staff, and yourself.
Yeah, and just to go off reports, another report I like, and we ran with a clinic the other day, was like with the net collection rate report. And they realize by that report, I like it because they can see what primary insurance reimbursed, they can see what secondary reimbursed, they can learn what their percentage for that insurance should be. And, we had a therapist discover that they were missing payments from multiple therapists that they had no idea. And then they discovered, services that were, the net percentage was, 20% when it should have been 60%. So there's so many things to do that you can look at that you can just optimize already, in your own practice. And this is somewhere where sometimes you have to step away and look at everything, or bring someone else in to go through all of this with you. You'd be surprised how much money you might be able to save just by having someone else look it over, so they can help you with that. So once your operations are optimized, and we'll talk more about RTM, Rebecca, in the next section here, but once your operations are optimized, now you can look at adding new revenue streams. So you have to be really careful. If you don't have a good foundation, you don't have appropriate systems and staffing in place, and nothing is optimized, when you then add in these additional revenue streams, what happens? Any idea what happens when you do that? What do you guys think happens? Put it in the chat. No one wants to comment. Steve, what happens? Spread too thin, breakdown. Again, it's creating, you're already on kind of crumbling down, and then you try to add other things. And if you don't have that stability already, then, everything can kind of come falling apart. So yeah, leads to burnout, you're spread too thin.
Yep, and it's always good to focus just one thing at a time. And I know it's hard, right, Kara? So even for us in our practice and even Hello Note, there's a lot that you want to accomplish and achieve, but I think it's important not to spread yourself too thin. And I'm still working on that myself. It's always exciting to try to do a lot and see what works. But in reality, you have to zone in on making sure that you're on at least one path that will take you where you want to be.
So when we're looking at improving accuracy and systems, not increasing volume or compromising care, but many practices can actually increase revenue 10 to 20% without seeing an additional client, just from improving systems, decreasing errors, finding where that leakage is and stopping that, and gaining more clarity. So when it comes to having your practice optimized, on a scale of 0 to 10, with 0, your practice isn't optimized at all. 10, you guys feel your practice is 100% optimized. You are you know, your systems are solid, you don't have any leakage, everyone's doing what they're supposed to, your cancellation list is as low as it can be, and that's going to be a 10. Where do you rate yourself as far as optimization? I've been doing this since 2018, and we have a lot more optimization that we can do. And you know, we're going to talk about diversifying payment and a different revenue sources. And I refuse to add a different location and add on some of these other streams of income because we're not optimized. We're not ready for that. We're not at the Starbucks level where they can pick up and set up a business on any street corner they want and make it work, right? I want my practice to be a lot more optimized at that 10 level before I make that move. So same thing, create a goal where you want to be by the end of 2026 and figure out what are some things you can do to optimize your practice. Okay, so once your foundation is solid, you have good systems in place, you are no longer the bottleneck doing everything, and your operations are optimized. Now you're ready to think about diversification. And diversifying payment streams is not about chasing every opportunity or adding services just because they exist. It's about intentionally reducing risk and building stability. Does anyone have trouble with shiny object syndrome here? Yes or no? You see a new program, you see a new service, you want to add it on. I mean, let me tell you, when I was at APTA private practice event in Orlando, I absolutely loved the device with the harness that I posted a video on, and I love the VR set. I would love to buy and get those in place, but is it the right time to do it? Probably not for where we're at with everything. So again, you know, when you are looking at diversifying, you need to make sense that it aligns with you and your practice, and making sure that it doesn't happen too early and that it doesn't create distraction and overwhelm you. Because when it does happen at the right time, it strengthens your business and protects everything you have already built. So before we talk about diversifying payment streams, I also added referral sources because I have seen this happen, unfortunately, multiple times, and we've had a couple of big ones. Couple therapy practices get hit pretty big with this in the last year, and this is not having enough referral sources. We've had some therapists have awesome practices doing very well, and then they lose their primary referral source, and then they crumble down. So you have to have multiple referral sources. And on top of that, you know, also think about diversifying your payment streams, you know, not just insurance, but contracts, partnerships, grants, you know, what kind of private pay services that are legal that you can add on. You know, those are other ways that you can diversify your payment streams. You can also, you can, there are a lot of different ways that you can diversify your payment with that. So, and when you do diversify your payment, it protects you against reimbursement changes, referral slowdowns, staffing disruptions. So another thing come in October, was anyone affected in October when they weren't getting payments in a timely fashion from Medicare? Was any business impacted from that? Yes or no, were you impacted in October when Medicare payments weren't coming through? No, that's good. A little more. So some of our practices that reached out were really affected because they were only relying on Medicare. They didn't have additional reimbursement. They didn't have different contracts or partnerships in place to help them with that. So we are seeing, you know, more and more people doing private pay. Some are doing a great job at private pay. Some aren't really following the rules and regulations and providing services private pay that are technically should be billed to Medicare. So again, just making sure that what you're doing goes with the rules and regulations. And but then thinking about you know, there's different grants. We've been lucky enough over the last year to have several different programs across the US, whether it's with the GUIDE program, whether it's with the older adult grant program, reach out looking for therapists in different areas. So a lot of therapists we work with have started working with different community programs and providing services, and they're getting paid through a grant or a contract. So looking at different ways is a good one. Affiliates, I'm really excited. I can't announce it yet, but hopefully in January, we have a cool affiliate partnership that will be coming out, hopefully for therapy businesses. It'll primarily be for those of you that work with older adults, but that, you know, that can be a nice supplemental stream. Kylie, who's on here, she does a ton with Amazon and affiliates through that. You see more and more people utilizing that. So lots of different things that you guys can do to diversify your payments. Any other options? I'm going to talk specifically about new things coming in 2026. But Steve, any other ways that people can now diversify payment streams?
I've been hearing a lot about wellness and adding different services as well. So like cash-based services. Okay. I've heard some providers teaming up with massage therapists, for example, and working together because a lot of practitioners, you know, it's good if you have a good stable income with insurance revenue. A lot of providers I'm hearing are trying to move into more of a cash based. Not to say that they're fully getting out of insurance. They want to supplement with more cash. But
Yeah, and I'll talk more specifically about some other ones in a little bit. But as we move into 2026, a few things that you might want to consider. Again, don't do this unless you're already on solid footing. But RTM, 81 here currently doing remote therapeutic monitoring. Yes or no? Who's currently doing it? Okay, we got one so far. Anyone else? One yes, one looking into it. So with RTM, honestly, before the new changes that are coming, January 1st, there was very minimal practices I would recommend it for because it actually takes a lot more to get it in place. And we've seen a lot of practices fail with it and lose a lot of money for it. So I haven't recommended it to actually see either now. It could be a good way for your practice. There are different remote therapeutic monitoring companies out there. We actually are working with 3 different remote therapeutic monitoring companies and have done webinars. We have done 2 and we have another one coming up. So we work with Limber, MedBridge, and then I always pronounce this one wrong. The Choreo one more for pediatrics. So RTM could be a great way, a good addition to your practice. We've added pretty good income to our practice. We've started it in April, but it does take work. It actually was a lot harder to get staff buy-in than I thought. So there's a lot of components to it. Another thing we've been doing now since May is our KM, remote, I can never say this word, can't say that word, monitoring. So we actually use devices that will look at fall risk, balance, so forth. We've been reimbursed anywhere up to about $360 a month for those devices. So that can be a good option depending on your practice and depending on insurance. FCEs. So like I said before, FCEs have been a hot topic. They still are. We have therapists contracting with with attorneys. We have people taking insurance. The highest we've gotten reimbursed for is with a workman's comp one that was like $2,300 for a 6-hour FCE. Grants, there are still quite a few grant opportunities out there. We have therapists working with people that have the GUIDE program. The older adults program, I already talked about affiliates. There's some new exciting partnerships that are coming out that once they get up and going, we'll be looking for therapists that are interested. There's a big one coming with like home safety, home modification, and some other different ones out there. So I say the big hot topic right now is RTM, but again, you need to have so many patients on caseload, and you need to have all of the things we talked about already set up before you're ready to do that with that. Okay, so what not to rely on in 2026? Just working harder, adding more low-paying visits, ignoring compliance, hoping reimbursement improves, doing everything yourself, adding services without system, and ignoring compliance boundaries. Increasing revenue is not about chasing more patients. It's about going back to the basics and building a solid foundation. We talked all about this already, so I'm going to skip through this for the time factor. And again, revenue growth really requires a shift from working in the business to working on the business. So now that we walked through the framework, I was going to go over some case studies, but I know it's getting late. It's 6:20. So I'm going to stop there and ask if anyone has questions about what we talked about, because I'm going to actually go back to this roadmap. As you plan for 2026, make goals now, how you're going to fix your foundation, build leverage, and optimize operations. And I think most everyone here probably really needs to look at this first before you get to the diversifying revenue streams. So make sure you look at that. So questions. So business to business, it's like contracting with a business instead of directly with therapists. So for example, another business to business one that we added in 2025 was we actually contract with a skilled nursing facility now. And we can't bill for patients in the skilled nursing, they have to bill. So we contract with the skilled nursing facility. We see clients in their facility. They do the billing, they pay us the contracted price. Actually, due to time, I didn't go over all of the different here, but professional practice provides to businesses, organizations, or institutions under a contract agreement or recurring arrangement. Another one I added is I actually consult at the local university here in their Dakota Geriatrics. So I'm doing more of a business-to-business contract to bring in revenue, and it's more for the professional services I provide. Does that help? Let me know if that answers that. What company do you use for RKM? So we're actually working with a company called Biomech. And we've had a couple therapists try it. But again, there's a lot that goes into it to make sure that you get reimbursed. So if you're interested in RKM, we will hopefully be able to start connecting more people, but it's been, I mean, we hoped that months ago, and it's still a process in play. Those of you that were at our event in Boston, we talked a little bit about it. We finally got reimbursed for Medicare for it a few months ago, which is awesome because up until now, people weren't getting reimbursed by Medicare for it for therapy practices. But the reimbursement was pretty small from Medicare compared to some of the other plans. But there's like nurse practitioners that are billing these exact same codes and are getting hundreds of dollars more. So we're in the process of trying to negotiate and see if we can increase our payments before we start bringing this out a little bit more. Let me put RKM codes. So that's ones where we're monitoring like their fall risk, their balance. They wear a sensor, and the sensor provides us with data on where they're at with everything. Other questions that you guys have? I'll go into the case studies too, but I just want to answer your questions first because I know it's getting a little late. Latasha, you can just reach out to Venus with that. Otherwise, we'll put the FCE training up on our YouTube channel. It should be there already. And then Rebecca, I was going to go back to your RTM question. So RTM, you know, is great. It can be great, but you do have to have enough clients for it to work. And it's not as easy as it sounds. It will be easier in 2026. But again, once people are at, like for Limber, you need to have at least 10 clients on a regular basis that would benefit from it in order to make it worthwhile for you. Other questions that you guys have before I talk about how this all kind of works into practice? Actually, one of our coaches in our Next Level Therapy Business Builder program is doing that, Daniel. I could connect you to her. She is, I mean, she's working in the capacity of an expert witness. I don't know that she's tied it into FCEs per se. And I don't, Steve, do you know very many that, I mean, I've known a few people that do the expert witness. There's a lot involved, but I can definitely connect you. You know how to email me. I'll connect you, Daniel, with Megan to answer that. But Steve or anyone else, does anyone else do expert witness or know anyone that does?
I don't know anyone that does.
Yeah, Megan Dooley, she's one of our coaches and a business owner here in North Dakota. She's actually doing that. Okay, so I'm going to go through these really quick. I just picked a few case studies. So this is a therapist that launched a solo practice in 2024. What really stood apart for this therapist was that this therapist really, we created an action plan and the therapist literally implemented it step by step by step and hired administrative support earlier, like before anyone else even would consider it. Prioritize systems. Just laughing. Met with Anthony. Have you reviewed your systems? He's like, well, I really went overboard with my systems when I first started. And again, that has really helped him to get where he was. So he hired an admin before he was even full-time in his practice, and he hired a full-time admin before he even had a full caseload himself, and he prioritized systems from the start. And then he really hired his next therapist strategically, and that really helped him grow. So when we look at, 2004, where he started, and this is monthly income. So you see, if you see the 0, 5,000, 10,000, 15, that's monthly income, right? So you can see when you get started, it doesn't, unfortunately, his trajectory is a lot higher than a lot of people we see. A lot of people stay down in this range and then kind of come up. And it's because they often are hesitant. They often are the bottleneck. But he implemented the systems, he hired sooner. So his trajectory, skyrocketed up a lot more than other people that we work with. And when you look at private practice and small businesses, they say, you often don't make, profit and so forth for your first 3 years. But if you really take this roadmap and start executing it, you can get there a lot sooner than others. This is an example. Again, in 2024, he was working, started this on the side, and then 2025 went full in to the business, bought a house, got engaged, planning a wedding, added staff, and so was able really to increase that growth. And another therapist actually came to us after being a therapist for many years and still wasn't making a profit, had 2 clinics in 2 different locations, was already burnt out, not paying self, high cancellation rate, had debt, and then committed to implementing a system and committed to hiring and delegating. And we got in a full-time virtual assistant immediately. We prioritized setting up systems, working with our system coach. And this started in like January, and by July was already paid off the debt and reduced the cancellation from 28% to 10.95%. And the cancellation reduction is one of the fastest revenue levers, especially for those of you who have pediatric practices. We find that pediatric practices have a pretty high cancellation rate, but there's things that we can do to reduce that. And when we can reduce those cancellation rates, the money really adds up, right? So every 1% reduction in cancellation recovers $1,800 a year in revenue at just 25 visits a week. So down at this bottom right-hand corner, if we reduce that cancellation rate from 28% to 10.9%, that's 20,000 in revenue recovered. So there can be just little things that we can help optimize, go back and fix that foundation that can make big improvements. So when you guys are thinking about your goals and where you're at, making these changes that we talked about today can help you increase revenue before you even think about diversifying. This is a newer situation, met with an early stage practice without a compliance foundation. They got up and going quickly, had several therapists seeing several clients, brought us in 2 to 3 months into operations. Well, unfortunately, we found a lot of things going on as far as what was being done with plan of cares, not being sent out, not being signed, reevals research being done instead of progress reports, CPT codes, units, issues, treatment units. Again, things like this can add up not just in revenue problems, but also financial problems as well. So, really learning and making sure sometimes you might grow too fast, and that can cause problems if you haven't set up that proper foundation, trained your staff so they know and understand what they need to do as far as documentation, billing, things like that. This just gives an example of, with just 10 visits a week affected at 100 visits or $100 per visit, you're risking $48,000 a year just on that, with that. So key takeaway for early practices, the earlier the foundation is built, the less revenue and stress you risk. So as far as action steps, what to do in the next 90 days. Take those numbers and create actionable goals. You're all therapists, you all know how to create goals, and then post them so you see them every day. First, you do need to decide what you want for yourself. Do you want to remain self-employed, or do you want to intentionally build a business? If you do, commit to operating accordingly and create a strategy, use your time wisely, get the book or listen to the audiobook, buy back your time, and make some decisions that are going to help you move forward. Go back and review your foundation, fix anything that's broken or not there. Remove yourself as the bottleneck of the practice, and then optimize, and then you can choose to diversify. So I know we threw a lot at you in a short amount of time, but sustainable revenue growth in 2026 is going to come from clarity, focus, and strong fundamentals, not from doing more. So take these steps and implement. Steve, anything else you want to add?
No, I mean, so far so good. You know,
Awesome. I do
Yeah,
have,
lots of good stuff on a lot of topics. I think, Kara, we should break down a lot of the topics into like smaller segments as well,
oh yeah,
and
we
do
could
kind
do
of
a whole
like a worksheet.
presentation on one topic, 100%. Yeah, if anyone's
Yeah.
interested in that, we definitely could do that. I have a revenue optimization checklist that I was going to go over with you guys, but we could break that down into another webinar, or into separate webinars, because we have systems, checklists, and stuff that can kind of help you break it down even more within that. So definitely things we can do, if you guys are interested in that. Also, we have adapted and updated and have some new things going on in our program in 2026. So anyone that attends our live trainings today or Thursday, we're doing a free systems review call. So all you have to do is just email me. Most of you guys know who I am, and Kylie will get a call set up, a discovery call to review your systems and discuss, any recommendations that you guys could do to help you reach your goals in 2026. So reach out if you have any additional questions. Thank you, Steve, for your time, and I'll stay on for just a little bit in case someone else has additional questions. Otherwise, have a great night.
thanks, Kara.
Thank you. Have a good night, you guys.
Take care, everyone.